long box. Today is Sunday Comics. Ah, geez, it was a hard wake up today. It's very cold out. I'm in New York, and finally the winter weather has came all the way at the end of February, beginning of March. Let me take a sip of my coffee. Just made myself some coffee. How I always use Tim Hortons coffee, and I always use sugar in the raw and half. That's my perfect cup of coffee. Waking up, I don't know why. I didn't 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 go to bed early. I stayed up way too late, which is what I always do on Saturday nights. I'm like a little kid. Give me some time off, and I'm staying up late. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm already babbling. All right, focus. Just kind of stalling because nobody's here, but that's the way it is. That's the gamble that you take when you're a nobody YouTuber. All right, so all right, wake up. All right, so I noticed going through my comic collection that I don't seem to have too many or any Atlas comics, and a friend of mine, Mike, started getting some Atlas comics, and then he bought for my birthday. He always goes out of his way to buy me a comic book. Nothing expensive like a $2 or $3 comic book, but it's just nice. And he challenges himself to get something that I do not have. So he it dawned on him that I don't have any Atlas comics. So he got me Wolf the Barbarian this year. I should showcase that. And I was looking through I was talking to him, and God, I'm a mess today. I was talking to him, and he was asking me about Wolf the Barbarian, and I said I don't really know too much about Atlas comics. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to take a deep dive into Atlas comics. So I heard Chuck Dixon say that Morlock 2000 was like the most insane crazy comic. He says he read it and he doesn't remember anything about it afterwards. So I was like, all right, challenge accepted. So I got Morlock 2001. And I couldn't find it for the longest time because in my brain I thought he said Warlock 2000. But Warlock 2000 that's like a British 2001 AD comic by why can't the same guy who drew the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. So I was like, I don't know what's going on. So I realized it was Warlock 2001. It's only 3 issues. As of okay, so let's start at the beginning. What is Atlas Comics? Atlas Comics was founded by Martin Goodwin. Why is that a big deal? Because Marvel Comics was founded by Martin Goodwin. Martin Goodwin was the owner of Timely Comics, which was the precursor to Marvel Comics. He hired his nephew Stan Lee to run Timely Comics, and I don't know why, but in the 50s, Timely became Atlas Comics. Not to be confused with this different company. And then in with the publication of Fantastic Four, it became Marvel Comics. So Martin Goodman sold Marvel Comics. So he no longer owns Marvel Comics, and I think 1972. And he had like a verbal agreement with the new buyers that his son Chip was going to be running the new Marvel comic. Well, the new owners didn't honor that agreement. Chip doesn't get the job. Martin's a little ticked, so he does what any good businessman does. He starts up another company, and he calls it Atlas. Now, the fans call it Atlas Seaboard to distinguish it from Atlas, which was the precursor to Marvel. So Atlas Seaboard, but from now on, I'll just say Atlas Comics, was founded by the same person who created Marvel Comics. And what does he do? He puts his son Chip in charge. They then hire Larry Lieber. Names may be a little bit familiar. He drew the first Thor. I think he drew the first Iron Man, and he drew the first Ant-Man. And who is he? That's Stan Lee's brother. Lieber is Stan Lee's real name. So Larry Lieber is hired as the editor-in-chief. So Larry Lieber said that Martin was a good businessman. He didn't try to start Atlas Comics to put Marvel out of business. So, as the salacious rumors started. I wasn't there. I don't know. Other people said, oh, totally. He totally started the company to put Marvel out of business. Again, I wasn't there. I don't know. Martin is a good businessman. So my gut reaction is he just wanted to do what he already knew, which was run a successful comic book company. So he started Atlas. He put Larry Lieber in charge, and then he also hired, and I forget the man's name, but one of the editors from Warren magazine, the creepy and eerie line, and so he hired, if you ask me, professionals, top notch professionals, and the theory was he was going to hire the best, and he was going to pay the best, and he also was going to guarantee that you got your art back, which is something that Marvel really wasn't doing at the time, or at least lip service. I don't know. Taking another sip of coffee. Really need to wake up. As you can tell, I'm not too animated yet. And I slept really well. I love when it's cold out. I sleep very, very well. Oh, we got two people watching. Hey, how you doing? Do I sound good? Do I look good? Give me a thumbs up just to let me know so I'm not talking into the void. All right, so finishing up the background on Atlas Comics. So he had, going to return the artwork, top pay, top talent, and he had top professionals running the place. Hey, Abrax, good morning. Sounds good. Thank you. Good morning to you, Abrax. Good. Thank you for coming. I like to flatter myself and think that you are waiting with bated breath for me to turn on, but I know, I know that's not the truth. Sound is perfect. Thank you, Jeff. So it only lasted like a year. It lasted like 11 months. No comic lasted more than 4 issues. So what went wrong? That I do not know. I've been trying to research what went wrong with Atlas Comics. I know everybody's like, oh, the quality sucked, but I'm not going to judge the quality because there was a lot of bad comics coming out around this time. DC wasn't, well, people are going to call me on that one because other professionals were saying that DC was making some of the best comics, like the war comics and cowboy comics at this particular time. But I don't know. I never got those. Now at this point in my life, I'm slowly picking up those comics. But at this point, I'm going to say that the DC superhero comics weren't that good. I didn't particularly like them. I actively avoided them. Now, also keep in mind at this point, I'm 7 years old. So who cares what I say? But so I actually remember seeing some of these Atlas comics and they didn't particularly interest me. So who knows? I don't know. Maybe it's a subtle thing, but the quality is good. It's better than Charlton comics. The paper feels good. These feel like quality Marvel comics. In fact, I would dare to say that the printing on these is as good, if not better, than Marvel at the time. So I don't know what went wrong. Well, let's look at Morlock 2001 and we'll see. So again, look at this cover. All right, so we got Al Milgrom and Dick Giordano. Now, Al Milgram's not my favorite artist. Matter of fact, it was kind of like, oh no, Al Milgrom. When I was a kid, and again, keep in mind, as a kid, it wasn't until like really late high school until I started really paying attention to the names of the creators. So I just would see the artwork of Al, and I didn't really like it. Another one, that Herb Trimpe and George Tuska, those were the 3 that I just didn't like. And I feel bad saying that because again, I'm not here to try to hurt anybody's feelings. I do hurt people's feelings, but I'm not trying to hurt people's feelings. So but I got to say, this Dick Giordano is a top-notch inker, and Dick Giordano really, really makes this look better. I'm holding out, opening up the comic until more people show up. Maybe 2, maybe 3 people will be all I get. So anyway, let me digress for a minute. No, I got 4 people. Let me digress for a minute. I was listening to an interview, and oh, geez, my brain's not. I got to get my brain wet. Let's put some coffee on my brain. I can't remember who was talking, but one of the things that they said is that Marvel and DC are both suffering from this right now, in that the art of inking is disappearing. Hey, good morning, Lacey. How are you? You're in Germany, correct? What time is it over there? Just curious. It's my phone says 9:41. My phone says 9:46 right now. That is weird, but it's 10:22, right? Oh, don't confuse me. But anyway, Man, I'm just not awake yet. So Marvel in DC, they're not really hiring inkers anymore. What they're doing is they're giving artists extra money to ink themselves, but they're not. It's because it's cheaper than hiring a full artist and a full inker. So they're getting one artist getting maybe a little higher rate to ink, and I never thought about this, but now I've been thinking about this for the past couple of days. They're saying that if you have an artist draw the panels. I'm on the East Coast, but I'm German. Oh, okay, okay. I thought I heard you say, or heard you. I saw a comment that about you were German, so I just assumed you were German in Germany. God, not my best live stream. Last week was great. This week, I don't know. But anyway, he he says that you get the artist. Just an explanation of my personality traits. Oh, okay. I'm Narnian. That'll explain a lot. So he he's saying that if you get the penciler and then you have another inker, it's like another perspective to flush out the artwork. He says it's the same with having a writer and an editor. I've always been saying that it's not a good it's not a good sign when a writer does their own egg salad. Vincent Price is in the chat. um, there's a deep dive if anybody gets that comment. But if a writer edits their own work, they're not gonna. It's almost like it's inbred. It's gonna be missing something. It's not it's you need another perspective. And their point is if an artist inks their own work, it's missing another perspective. Now, I agree with that to a point, but then there's guys who are excellent at inking their own stuff. Guys like Neil Adams, John Byrne, George Perez. I could go on and on and on. But in this particular case, I'm going to say that Dick Giordano just really brings out Al Milgrom to the point. I mean, it's not the greatest, and I got all three comics. I was going to try to do all three of these Morlock. It's only three. So enough yapping. I got interaction. Let's open this up. So look at this cover over here. Kind of like, what is going on? And this, of course, this scene doesn't happen in the comic, and you'll see why. So let's open it up. So now we got the fun. Oh, this is the Johnson Smith company. I just love these ads. You don't see this anymore. And now we got the coming of Morlock, and let's look at the indicia. Morlock 2001 Volume 1, no, number 1, February 1975, published bi-monthly by Atlas Comics. All right, perfectly good splash page. We got this crazy looking thing grabbing this chick, and good Lord, choke. What is that thing? And we know that it says administration. It's kind of silly, but it's fine. And again, this is excellent. The art doesn't bother me. Like again, as mean as it is to say, I'm not a big fan of Al Milgrom's artwork, but this looks great. Dick Giordano is really bringing out. So we have the story as botanist. Good morning. Hey, good morning, Pete. How are you doing? How you doing, Pete? The gang's all here. So here we have a botanist. Oh, God, I need to wake up. I slept really good. I slept like the dead. Let me take another sip of coffee, wake up my brain, get that caffeine going. So with this botanist, he's talking to his plants, he's talking to everything. And what does he have? He has these two pods. These two gigantic pods over here. And we got Crash. And look at this brutality over there. Crash, and he goes, what do you want? Why? Brat-a-tat-tat-tat. Look at the holes. Look at that. Look at the darkness in the background. I thought this was an excellent series of panels. These guys just machine gunned them down, right? Pretty gory. So here we got this peaceful mad scientist getting gunned down, and now we have the most fantastic publication of its kind. So I don't know what this is. I got to read this. I didn't read this yet. And over here we have Steranko's The History of Comics. I had these. I had this. I bought it around, around 1900, around 1990. And when I moved, I put all of my comic books into my parents' basement. I stored everything. And no. When I put all my comic books into storage, but I put a few things into my parents' basement that I forgot about. And this I forgot about. So it was in my musty basement, and it literally disintegrated. It like turned into like mush, you know. So I can't seem to find it again. I've been looking for the Steranko History of Comics to replace it. So now these guys are like, look at this freakiness. We're gonna, and they just start burning down everything, burning down our thought police. Okay, so you get a little taste of what's going on, and they bring in the pods into this laboratory. And these two guys are like, look at this, look at that. What is this though? We don't know. We don't know. We're going to observe it. We're going to water it. We're going to figure it out. You know, he was a mad scientist, but he was brilliant. And I really like the way the plant looks over here. They're like, what we don't know what it is. We should destroy it. You know, the guy's like, destroy it. No, we need to observe it and everything. And then, you know, I'm going quick because I got 3 comics. And it opens up and there's a man inside. There's a man inside. And Atlas Comics. Look at that ad. This is Ernie Colin's artwork. Look at that. That is just awesome. So this is all their characters. I'm going to see if I can. People's feelings are overrated. Right now, I'm feeling like the dead. So this is a Devilina. This is Morlock 2001. That's Wolf the Barbarian. I don't know who that is. Don't know who that is. Don't know who that is. That's also Morlock 2001. You'll see. So this is the cast of characters. All right. So they take the man out and they're studying him, and you know that's his face. He's waking up, and they put this costume on him. So you know that he didn't come out of the pod with the costume on. That they put a costume on him. So they're helping him out. This crazy looking hair, and what do? They're taking him to the infirmary, and from here they're brainwashing him. So let's do a little bit of backstory. What's going on? So it's the year 2001. Now keep in mind this comic book came out in 1975. All right, I'm starting to wake up now. I can feel it. And the author of this comic. Oh, there's no. Did I skip the credits? Okay, I skipped the credits. So the author of this comic, Michael Fleischer, and why is that a big deal? If you saw my Jonah Hex showcase, where I talked about that Jonah Hex spectacular that I absolutely loved, that was the same writer. So this is a top-notch writer, Michael Fleischer. I'm actively looking for his comics these days because of that Jonah Hex special. Man, did I love it. So, okay, the pencils, Alan Milgram, I talked about that already. The inks, Jack Abel. So Jack Abel is doing the interior. Dick Giordano did the cover. So already I'm messing up. That's because my brain is fried. And the editor is Jeff Rovin. That is the name that I couldn't remember. Jeff Rovin did the war magazines, Creepy and Eerie. So like I said, top-notch talent. Top-notch, you know, the printing is excellent. It's just the ideas are kind of wonky. So let's get back to where I was, since I skipped the credits. And there we go. So what's going on? Michael Fleischer must have just read 1984 and 2000 and Fahrenheit 451, because it's the year 2001 and it's a fascist government, the Wrath of the Spectre writer. Yes, it is. Good. Thank you for bringing that up, because my brain is misfiring. Yes, and those were great comics. Michael Fleischer is a top-notch talent. But this is a little too high concept, and you'll see why. So it's the year 2001. So it's 26 years away from publication. You know, it's set in the future. You know, now it's our past, and it's an oppressive totalitarian government. It's just think of the government. It's 1984. It's Brave New World. It's Fahrenheit 451. The trilogy of books that everybody should read. I'm going to be arrogant for a second and say that I don't consider you literate unless you read those 3 books. You know, and Animal Farm, there's 4 books, okay? I had a coworker. This guy's a really good guy. Matter of fact, his father worked for Frank Frazetta as an artist, and he just won't read science fiction. He says it's a waste of time. He only reads historical fiction or like financial magazines. Guy's like a bodybuilder. He's just like an all-around, like, very interesting guy. So he likes to argue with people in the best sense of the word, like challenge me, change my mind kind of thing. But he's not like, I don't know. I honestly think he's like searching for information rather than set in his ways. So he's like, okay, tell me why I should read science fiction. So I told him, science fiction, it's an exploration of the human condition. It's philosophy told through literary format. It challenges the ways you think. It challenges your outlook on life. So he's like, okay, give me a list of books. So I told him 1984, Fahrenheit 451, Animal Farm, and I then in my business, you say hello to a lot of people and you say goodbye to a lot of people. I didn't see him for like 2 years, and then I did see him, and he was like, those were 10 excellent books. He read them all, and he goes, you changed my mind, and that I like that about him. Again, you know, he has a connection to comic books because his father worked with Frank Frazetta. How cool is that? But anyway, back to this. So Michael Fleischer must have read 2001 and Animal Farm and all that stuff just right before because that's the government. So just say this is the George Orwell government. The thought police just come in and they burn books. Anybody who questions the government. So look, freedom is slavery. I mean, geez, this is ripped right off. A citizen's highest duty is to the government. Spy on one's neighbors. The truth is false. So there you go. That's what's going on, right? And Morlock 2001 is thrust from his plant pod into this society. Hey, Pete, this just for you. Bring back flashback of childhood happiness. Sea monkeys. I love that ad. And this, I love this. The superheroes, 10-inch tall plastic hobby kits. So you make some models of Marvel and DC superheroes and Star Trek. If I had seen this ad as a kid, I would have went berserk. So now he's properly indoctrinated into a Big Brother, and they shake his hand. Are you ready to become an operative for us? We're going to use your. I don't know why they decide that he's got to be an operative, but he's just a person as far as they know at this point. And he shakes hands, and he gets Stephen King'd. Anybody get the reference that I'm talking about? So he just gets covered in plant. Like a plant-like fiber, and ta-da, he turns into a plant. So he's dead. Dead bush being, hedge being, And like, what's going on? They're like, and he's looking at his hands. He didn't even know he could do this. So now he's like, oh my God, I just killed somebody. Why? He's a good guy. And they're looking at him with horror. So they make these metallic gloves for him to wear. So I don't know if that power is like on his flesh everywhere or just his hands. At this point, he can't control it. They don't know if he can control it, so they're being a little bit of safe. So they're like, okay, we got deviants over here. You got to go over there and you got to touch that deviant. So he's obeying. He's right out of the pod. He's basically a child in an adult form. So he walks over. He starts talking to this guy, and he doesn't even talk to him. He just walks by and just pats him, and boom, the guy turns into a plant being. They got rid of a deviant. Now, I don't know why the government just couldn't arrest him and shoot him, because this, to me, creates like scandal and horror in the people, something that I guess you'd want to avoid. Or do they just want to be like, this is what happens to deviants? They turn into plant. Who knows what sort of underhand. But there's a reason why the comic only lasted 3 issues. So he's just like, that was brilliant what you did. And he's saying, it makes me feel weird inside. Like, he doesn't have the words to explain conscience. Like he's like, I don't feel right when I do this stuff. And he's like, well, why don't you just go to the park and think about it? And of course, he doesn't know he's being set up. So introduce the honey trap, So he's sitting in the park. He feels attuned to nature. Why? He's made out of plants. So she's like, may I sit down? And feeding the birds, and they're just talking. Okay, who we got? Planet of the Apes. Look at this interesting Flintstones thing over here. Pretty cool. It's a model that you make a model. Planet of the Apes. Plastic snap together. Modeling was really big at this time, even as a kid. There we go. Tales of the Sorceress. And thrilling adventure stories. Cool. These are Atlas magazines. So the Marvel Comics and DC, I don't know. Did DC Comics, any of you guys know? Did DC Comics have the magazines? I got to look into that. But Marvel was big into the magazines, and since Marvel was doing it, then Atlas has got to do it. Atlas was kind of like a response to Marvel. And I got the Devilina magazine. I'll show off that. This is gonna be a future showcase. I thought this was excellent. I thought the issue number 2 I can't seem to find. But anyway, let's get back to this. So that it is the thought police driving around, and I would like to also point out that this future, like, there's no garbage. Now, I don't know if the artist and the editor thought this out, but the future looks, with the exception of like the deviants, getting murderized by the thought police, the future looks good. The park was clean, the air is clean, the city's so I don't know if that's a mistake or an oversight, or it's supposed to just be like it's a veneer of perfection, and then you got this little because the comic didn't last long enough to explore like what does the average person think? Is the average person happy? I don't know, like in China, is the average person happy? Does the average person like the government? I don't know. I really don't know. In Russia during the people that I knew that lived throughout the height of the Soviet, communist regime of Russia, of USSR, were people that came to New York. So of course they weren't happy, or they would have stayed. So am I getting a flawed perspective? Am I getting an accurate perspective? I don't know. I wasn't there, and I don't know about you guys, but the past 5 years, I've really learned to distrust all news, all government information. I've become a deviant, right? Right. I should look around. Maybe Morlock 2001 is going to slap me in the face, and I'm going to turn into a plant. So he's talking to Honey Trap over here. That's not a real name. The real name doesn't matter. And she's just like, maybe you should just listen to the government. Look how peaceful it is. Look how clean it is. And he's just like, wow, he said, I'll be your friend. She's like, what do you mean you don't? To the point, he didn't even know what the word friend meant, because why does the government need to explain to him what a friend is? All he needs to know is go touch that deviant. You're going to turn into a plant beast. So he's just walking arm in arm with her. She's careful not to touch his flesh, and he's just like, she's telling him to go back and do his job. The government's fine. There's nothing wrong with the government. Deviants are harmful to society. And he's just like, wow, I have a friend. And, he goes, what? And he hears the girl's voice. And she's just like, I can't believe you're making me talk to this freak. I want more money. Well, my loyalty is only so much. And he's just like, oh, my duplicity is now like, he didn't even think about lying. He didn't have the concept of lies. So now he's just like, I can't believe you tricked me. You didn't even buy me a comb for this hair. And she's like, no, you got it wrong. We're friends. I love you. Now she's up in the game. I love you. And what does she do? She touches him. And, and so I guess it is just his hands, now that I think about it. And he gets angry, and you wouldn't like it when he's angry. So I just love this. Pardon me, a terrible innuendo. So she starts hugging him for the first time ever. A girl starts hugging him. His heart starts racing, and he gets some wood. So he gets wood, and he turns into this tree beast. And I do like the shading over here. Look at how cool that is. And she's like, help me, help me, help me. And when he's in this form, he's totally mindless, fueled by rage. He cannot control himself. You keep in mind, he's a good guy. He's struggling with what he's doing. And now he just grabs this girl, and she just gets reduced to like nutrient components, and he slurps her up. If you could see it later, but there's like his fingers. There we go. His fingers have like suction cups in it. He just like absorbs the person. Now they're shooting him. He's a raging beast, and he's just freaking out. And he's just like wandering out. What's going on? What's going on? And he changes. So he wandered back to where he was born. And of course, in every TV, movie, comic book trope, he finds the book that didn't burn. Maybe the thought police just burnt it and left, but he finds the diary that explains his origins. The scientist was experimenting, and inside the book, there's this formula that when he feels that he's going to change into this horrible hose beast, he needs to take the formula so he could control it. He's like, wow, what are the odds? What are the odds? That is mindless destruction. So now the oppressive government's telling everybody, this is Morlock. He's oppressive. He's not oppressive. He's a renegade. He's a degenerate. We'll give you 500 credits if to anybody who tells us where he is. Da, 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 da. That's the first issue. And now we have a write-up of all things that are Atlas. And I read this because I wanted to learn more about that. So this is their in-house news. And it's talking about the formation of the company, the philosophy of the company, to hire the best talent. And, I'm all on board. They did a pretty good job. And then where to write to get a letters page. Remember, everything they're doing is a response to Marvel. Here you go. Here's some muscles. Never finished high school? No problem. Atlas Comics doesn't discriminate. So the only thing I left out is the government named him Morlock. They're like, wow, he came out of a plant thing, like that book that we banned. So I love this. The government's trying to ban books, but they don't want people to. Books are dangerous, but they're gonna name them after the Morlocks from H.G. Wells. If I love H.G. Wells, uh, the time traveler. Why can't I think of the name of the book? But anyway, the time machine. Jeez, the Morlocks live underground mutants, but whatever. Don't waste a good name. So they named him Morlock, and that's the only name he knows. So now we're going to the second issue. Morlock must be destroyed. This was actually my favorite issue of the three. So we'll go right into it. I'm off today, guys. I apologize. Look at that splash page. Look at that. Morlock must be destroyed. So here, let's look at the Jeff Rovin, editor, Michael Fleischer, writer, Alan Milgram, artist, Jack Abel, inker, and Alan Kupperberg, lettering. So the only thing that changed was the lettering. Now, again, it sounds mean, but you only notice lettering when it's bad. You know, good lettering is designed to be unnoticeable. That's the whole purpose of lettering, to transfer the information without interrupting the story. So, I don't remember the letterer's name for the last issue. And we got this freak. So you could tell the girl's blind, and freaky monster's about to destroy her. So we cut back to the story. The government, on the omnipresent television screens, they're showing you Public Enemy #1, and they're just going around telling people, you got to go do this, you got to do this, and he's like, "Don't you worry, I'll get him." So what are they doing? They're stopping people, and they want to see their papers. So there's like, "Oh, you want to see my papers? Here's my papers." He's like, "This isn't an ID card." And the guy's like, starts walking away. "Here's my papers," and he doesn't even try to collect them. And they open up. It's Morlock. So what does Morlock do? He punches him and starts running. Now, I don't know. Is this a superhero costume or is this fashion? Well, let's look at everybody else. They just have like kind of generic. So yeah, I guess he has some sort of costume. And they're chasing him, running through the city, running through, flipping and daring do. And the people are like, "We're gonna watch this because if he escapes, we can tell the Thought Police and we'll get 500 credits." So it's not like the people are cheering him on, like, "Yay, there's a renegade to society." Like the average person is compliant. I mean, maybe he didn't get his vaccination and therefore he doesn't deserve hospitalization and heart transplants and stuff. Because the science. But anyway, he's escaping. He gets over here. Where is he? Where did he go? Where did he go? He's hiding on a train. So he sneaks into the train, and he's tired. He's not built like that guy, nor is he built like a 7-foot monster. I don't know. I was thinking about this. I kind of like that Superman costume. And I guess Michael Fleischer just watched Clockwork Orange, because now he's getting like these droogie guys, the bowler hats, the cane, the nose, Vinny Whale, El brother. You know what I mean? So to me, that's the biggest problem with this comic, as I inhale my own beard hair, is it's wearing its inspirations on its sleeve. It's not inspired by, it is ripped off by. So we got 2001, we got Brave New World, we got Fahrenheit 451, and now we got Clockwork Orange. It's like every dystopian novel, every future novel and movie just rolled into one. Throw in Morlock 2000, and there we go. We got a book. They didn't try too hard. I'm starting to think at this point Michael Fleischer just phoning this in, because he does have talent. He is a good writer. Even if I only read one of his comics in my entire life, that Jonah Hex Spectacular, he would be in my pantheon of writers, because that's how much I love that comic. So now they're saying, "You're sleeping. This is our boxcar. What money do you got?" He's like, "Money? I don't have any money." And they're like, "Oh yeah, you don't have any money? So how about we beat the crap out of you?" And the droogies are all ready to beat him up, and he's like, "No, I don't want to fight you. Hi, Sci Freak. How you doing? Good. Thank you for showing up." So they're grabbing him, and what do they say? Of course, because that's the way everything is. They're like, "How about we take those nice shiny metallic gloves?" So they hold his hair, and they take his glove, which makes me think that it is just his hands that have this power, because they touched his face. The girl touched his face, and she didn't plant Morlocks for the bad guys. Yes, That's what I'm saying, Pete. Is this comic book? It's just this is sci-fi reference the book, the comic, and I think with some tighter editor editoring, my mouth would work. If this had some tighter editoring, if this had some tighter editing, this would have been a lot better. But part of me thinks this is just Michael Fleischer phoning it in. And I think unfortunately, this is the whole Atlas company phoning it in. Now, please indulge me while I refill my coffee cup. Okay, I brought my pot over here, so there we go. Delicious, freshly brewed Tim Horton coffee in a Faberware coffee pot. This is the coffee pot. Now I'm going to come over here. I'm not trying to showcase my coffee. I'm just trying not to spill everything all over the place. Oh, God, how am I going to do this? All right, I'll do this. It's just difficult to do with one hand. Just, to me, a little bit more. There we go. This is Florida crystals. It's not quite brown. Then you stir it. You get the vortex going. And if I had two hands, I'd be done by now. And then you pour the half and half into the coffee while it's turning to create the vortex that distributes the coffee. And then my chair sinks down, and I have to raise the chair. All right, so now the Droogies are beating up our beloved hero, Morlock 2001. They're stealing his metallic gloves. You guys know where this is going. So they're holding his hands, and he's like, "What's going on?" He gets Stephen King from Tales of the Crypt. He turns into a plant hose beast, and he's like, "I killed them all." And then the train conductor is just like, "What's going on?" He comes in, he pulls a gun, and he's like, "You're the guy." And I love this. He doesn't say you're the good guy, you're the bad guy. He doesn't even care that these other people were killed. He's just like, "Wow, I could get 500 credits." So he's like, 500 credits, stay. And he's like, "Oh no, I'm going to change." He's going to change into that tree monster. So he's taking some of the formula to control himself. And the guy pulls a gun on him. He's calling the thought police. The thought police will be right over. And he's like, "Oh yeah, you got him. Well, what's that behind you?" Because remember, the average person doesn't know he turns into a monster. So even with the formula, he's so freaked out, he turns into the monster. And keep in mind, when he turns into the monster, he has no control of himself. So whether he wants to or not, doesn't matter. And he doesn't want to kill people. And then we got, this is my favorite ad of all time. I love this ad. Charles Atlas. I love the full page ad. "Hey, quit kicking sand in our face. That man is the worst menace on the beach. Listen here, I'd smash your face, only you're so skinny you might dry up and blow away." Look at her. She's disgusted by Mac. "That big bully, I'll get even someday. Oh, don't let it bother you, little boy." And he's just like, I love this panel. "Darn, I'm sick and tired of being a scarecrow. Charles Atlas says he could give me a real body. All right, I'll gamble a stamp and get my free book later. Son, oh no, what did it say? Boy, it didn't take Atlas long to do this for me. What muscles, that bully won't shove me around. What are you, here again? Here's something I owe you." Crack right in the face. "Oh, Mac, you are a real man after all. Hero of the beach. Gosh, what a build. He's already famous for it." So what did we learn here? Girls don't like scrawny men. Girls dig violence. And then, all the chicks like him because he's the most violent man on the beach. There we go. Star Trek medallion coins. I would have loved these. Too late. So here we go. This train conductor guy, he's getting enveloped by the beast, and he's just reduced to his elements and slurped up by Morlock. And here he is, just that's like the thing. After he like feasts, he reverts back to normal. So in a way, he's kind of like a vampire. So now he's hanging out by the trees, enjoying the solitude, and he hears some screaming. It's a child. A girl's in trouble. So this girl is being harassed, assaulted, beat up by these two. I don't know. I kind of dig the way they look. Great Scott. So he comes out and he just starts beating him up, and he's just fighting. Why? Because he wants to be a hero. He wants to be a hero, and he beats this shaggy beast. He's fighting him now. Unfortunately, he's at the precipice over here, and the scientist comes out and he's like, Dad, this man saved me. He's like, oh, okay, he saved you. And then we got plastic superheroes. Are there Morlocks the race of the green aliens with the male and females don't get along except once a year for violent mating? Are you thinking of the Badoon from Marvel, from the future that fought the Guardians of the Galaxy? Because that's exactly the story of the Badoon. The male and the female hate each other. They live on different planets, but they recognize that they go extinct. So like once I don't know if it's once a year, but they get together solely for mating purposes, and then but that's also the dire wraiths. Oh, now that I never really realized that. But Marvel Comics, they got two evil races that do the same thing: the dire wraiths and the Badoon. That's yeah. So in the comics, as far as I know, you never saw a female Badoon. But I know that the Morlocks, they have that sexual dimorphism where you don't even recognize them as the same species. But then again, the dire wraiths are also shape changers. But the Morlocks were the bad guy, the underground dwellers in H.G. Wells' The Time Machine. And they lived underground. They avoided light. There was two races, the Eloi and the Morlocks. And they're both like this split descendants of humanity after the nuclear war. The people that went and hid underground de-evolved into Morlocks, and the Eloi, they turned into like almost like childlike, mentally and physically, like halflings. So they were like little white-haired, blue-eyed creatures that were like peaceful and had no ability to defend themselves. Oh God, I gotta sneeze now. And the Morlocks would excuse me, the Morlocks would feast on them. So the Morlocks, no, definitely so was the Defenders. Now, okay, all right, I'm not, maybe you're probably right. You know what's funny about the Defenders? I was just saying this. I collected the Defenders sporadically. I'll get back to this, but Lacey made me think of something. The Defenders was a comic that, for whatever reason, was hard to find in my area. And I keep talking about how the distributors used to give out the comics to the stores. The stores didn't order. Val couldn't fight them. Okay. So the Defenders, I would get like, for every 10 issues that come out, I would get one. So I never really knew what was going on. I was always just like in the middle of a story, confused by the Defenders. And then when I told you I dated a woman who owned a comic book store, she gave me a full run of Power Man and Iron Fist. She also gave me a full run of Ghost Rider and a full run of the Defenders. So I sat down like over like a month period and I read Defenders from 1 to 125. And whenever I binge read or if I binge watch, I don't remember. But the Fantastic Four, the Avengers, the X-Men, I remember those comics. I remember panels. But the Defenders, it's as if I never read them, because if you binge read stuff, for me anyway, binge watch stuff like Game of Thrones, I remember because I watched it once a week. But I'm trying to think of what other shows that like Breaking Bad. I didn't start watching Breaking Bad until it was over, and I sat down and I binge watched it. And I don't remember. I remember the storyline. I remember enjoying it, but I don't remember, like, if people talk about characters' names and stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, I kind of remember that because I binge watched it. Anyway, so I'm maybe your memories about the Defenders is vastly superior than my memory, and I got to go back. I remember liking Valkyrie is cursed with the Enchantress to be able to fight. Yes, you're right. So you know what? Now you're making me remember. Yes, she probably couldn't fight female Badoon. And right, weren't they like different than the male Badoons? Like they were almost like two different species. Like, what do they call that? Sexual dimorphism. Anyway, so this guy comes out with this flamethrower and kills these flame things and saves Morlock. So now we got the shaking hands. She's like, Daddy, he saved me. And I like what she says right over here. Daddy, what does Mr. Morlock look like? So this blind girl, they were civilized. So the females were civilized? Oh, okay. Probably. Well, the males are civilized too. It's just unfortunately the male civilization was based on war and destruction. You know, so he's taking him back into his laboratory, and what is he? He's a mad botanist. So I don't know that this to me like shows that there'd be a need for this. Rogue botanists. Did anybody see what's the name of that movie? I really like it. Brazil, the Terry Gilliam movie. They have the rogue repairman going around. So, they that's what this reminds me of. There's rogue botanist. There's in that movie. There's rogue. Yeah, oh, yeah. I know what you meant, Lacey. So he's explaining that he's a rogue botanist and he studied under Dr. Chris Hoff or something like that. And he's like, Chris Hoff, that's the guy that created me. And he's like, really? He's like, I'm trying to make Plant Man, and this is the best I could do. He's like, oh, I'm a Plant Man. So they're like, wow. And here's the police. They're following the trail. They're gonna find the dead bodies in the the dead hobos. It's like, we must get him. We have to get him. So he's like, wow, that's interesting. He's doing science. Whenever you're pouring one beaker into a flask, that's science. And he's turning on the visit screen and the omnipresent message. This guy's worth 500 credits. We got to take, and he's 500 credits for this guy. He's a deviant, and he's like, wow, 500 credits, because with that much money, I could pay for the operation to restore my daughter's sight. But he saved my daughter. But he's a deviant. But the government wouldn't lie. He must be a bad guy. But he saved my daughter. So he's just going back and forth, and now he's just like, whether the government's good, the government's bad, whether he's a bad guy, my daughter needs the operation. So he pulls the gun on him, and he's just like, don't play dumb. I know you're a bad guy. And now the daughter's like, but Dad, he saved me. He's like, we're going to lock him in the shed. We're going to call the thought police, and I'm going to get 500 credits. If he's a good guy, he'll have a fair trial. So I don't know if he's like tricking himself or if he actually believes the government is good, or, whatever. So she goes in there and she undoes the latch, and she's like, Mr. Whatever, and he's like freaking out. He's like, I don't have my potion. And the girl opens the door, and he's got the Morlock beastness on him, and look, you see the little suction cups, and he's like, what happened? And the girl is dead. You killed my baby. So now he vows revenge, and I do believe that had this series continued, Fleischer would have had this guy as like a recurring character. Basically a good guy with legit reasons to go after him. So they're setting up for the future. Unfortunately, the future never happens. And look at him. He's like, I can't believe I killed that girl. I don't deserve to live. What's going on? And then we got Planet of the Apes over here. A lot of models in this time. Models was big. This ad, I've always hated this ad. And we got cash prizes for selling seeds. So now we're going to look at the last issue of Morlock 2000 and the Midnight Men. Now, this is an editorial mistake, as we'll see, because there are no Midnight Men in this comic. What there are is the Minutemen, led by the Midnight Man. So that's the Midnight Man, and these are the Minute Men. So this, right on the cover, there's a mistake. Look at that artwork, though. All right, decent cover. So we got free karate, jiu-jitsu. We got Charles Atlas over here. So just remember, guys, I assume that I'm probably the oldest person in the room right now. So I'm the only one who remembers 1975. It was violent. You needed to learn karate. You needed to get muscles, because if you walked down the street, people attacked you. You got beat up. You needed to become the most violent person in the area in order to survive back. I'm joking. So here we got the splash page. Are the credits? Do they have the credits right here? I'm looking. Okay, here are the credits. What does that say? Written by Gary Friedrich. So already the swap had teamed out. That's never a good sign. So, and you'll see the whole tone of the comic is changed. Drawn by Steve Ditko. Inked by Bernie Wrightson. Oh my God. Look at that. Steve Ditko and Bernie Wrightson. This is the first and only time, to my knowledge, that these people teamed up. Edited by Larry Lieber. So everybody's gone. Now, what I heard, it's bi-monthly. So this is two times two. So this is 4 months later. So the paycheck should be coming in now. And I'm hearing from Chuck Dixon that at this point the checks stopped coming. So people were walking. So all the teams were changing at this point. So how do they get Bernie Wrightson and Steve Ditko? The theory is that Bernie Wrightson just wanted to ink Steve Ditko, that he's a Steve Ditko fanboy. So this was he didn't care. I don't know. I wasn't there. I'm just repeating rumors. So here we have a guy in the library reading books. Here comes the Thought Police. Thought Police just murderize him, just shoot fire at him. So this is totally Fahrenheit 451. And to me, this is really the first time that you've seen that the government is evil and wrong, because there was always some sort of argument to be made that the government wasn't that bad. Now, I know that the government's supposed to be bad, but if I'm looking at it objectively, the scientist that was killed for making look at he made Morlock 2001, and this guy is an uncontrollable murder beast. You know, he's killing hobos, he's killing little blind girls. You know, he is doing bad things. So maybe that scientist, there's a reason why I can't just do a whole bunch of crazy experiments in my garage. You know, and if the police come to arrest me and I'm making definitely like uncontrollable monsters in my garage, does that make the government bad? So there's a little bit of argument. This is the first time. Now, this guy just is reading books and he gets burnt up. So this is the first time the government's objectively bad. There was kind of, and I know Michael Fleischer wanted the government to be bad, but reading the comic book now, there's, I think like a real clever writer would have made an argument like, you know, shades of gray. So now he's just stumbling upon this. He's got the last bits of formula. And he's just wandering around, and time is running out. He turns into Monster Freak. Look at this. Just great artwork. Steve Ditko and Bernie Wrightson. Jeez. Look at that. Here we got this ad over here. We got Impossible Muscles. And this guy's just burning up. And they're just like, who would ever want to read books? Books are dangerous. Yeah. What's he say over here? Why would anybody want to die for a bunch of yellow old papers? You know. We got to censor him. Maybe one of these books said that there were only two genders. You know, do you ever think about that? If one of those books said that there were only two genders, then they're literally killing all trans people. So there you go. So now we could burn people to death. We could kill them. So now we have this guy's like, hey, look, outside there was a moving tree. The average foot soldier doesn't know about Morlock. They just know that he's a deviant. They don't know that he's could turn into a death tree monster like Old Man Willow from Tolkien. So the average guy's just like, what are you talking about? You crazy. He goes, I have to believe him. My orders are that we are all trustworthy. I kind of like that. I thought some pretty clever writing over here. So he goes outside and he's like, whoa, he was right. He's like, he has to believe because the government told him to always trust the other Thought Police, even though his brain was telling him that this was impossible. So I thought it was kind of cool. So now he sees this tree monster, and they're just like, holy crap. And they're shooting at it with bullets, but the bullets aren't affecting it. And the leader of the Thought Police, he's so scared. His brain is in dissonance that he can't move. He's just standing there with his mouth. What's that called? A gape? And he gets touched. And, of course, we all know what happens when you get touched by Morlock 2001 when he's got wood. So now, inexplicably, they never explain this. The guy who's reading the books, he's all burnt up, and he just gets up. He's like, why am I still alive? He goes, why do I feel no pain? He goes, I must be so badly burnt that my nerves are done, that I don't feel pain. And I like the subtle, like, little scarring on his face. You know, I definitely think like Steve Ditko just drew something, and then Bernie writes and added a little bit of a scar tissue or whatever. And he's just walking around wandering like, how am I still alive? My house is on fire. Everything's burnt up. And now he sees Morlock, and he's just like, what am I looking at? He's like, he doesn't know. Am I alive? Is this real? And Morlock just collapses. And he's just like, I got to help this guy. And now after he collapses, because, you know, he's always after he kills, he's kind of like, what's the word? Satiated. He passes out and he's reverting back to, he's like, oh, he's a human. I must help him. And now we cut to the police. You know, the police are like redoubling their effort now, you know, and that not only is this deviant like dangerous, but he's killing police in their line of duty of destroying books. So now they're going to redouble their efforts. And cut to, which I forgot about this, there was two pods in the in the original creation, and now they're I guess they're assuming that other people are buying this, so they're doing a recap. There's two pods. He came out of the pod. The girl over here, the honey trap was used to trick him. He killed the honey trap girl by accident, and now we have the three council members. So you can see everything slightly changing because it's a different perspective. And now we cut back to, so everybody's brought up to speed, and he's just like, wow, this guy turned into a human. And I love this little wisp of smoke to cover up his hiney because he's a burnt up naked guy. He's like, I have to save him. I have to save him. Doesn't matter, And his house is on fire. So what does he do? He drags him out, and Lever goes down into the secret lab, and he wakes up. He's like, come on down. You're wanted. I need to save you. And he's like, well, what else do I have to? He's like, so follow the naked, scarred, burnt up man down into the lab. How could, that's a good policy, right? Follow the naked man down into the basement. So they've turned it, this is an old subway station. So we're establishing that this is New York. Because he even say it's an old New York subway station. So they go to the subway station, and he's like, look, he escaped. They got to be dead. The thought police is just saying, he's got to be dead. The whole place is burnt up. And he's like, the wood monster probably burnt up because it's wood. And the deviant burnt up, although we can't find the body. So it's closing down, report over. So now he's meeting other people that like freedom fighters, the resistance. Now literally the underground. So it's almost, but here's where it loses me. They're having like church services, like, not that there's anything wrong with church services, but like in order to be part of this underground, it's just another collective, rather than be like, we need to do this for individuality. Like, yay, So there you go. I'm not much of a collectivist. I'm more of an individual person. I love that. So Steve Ditko drew it. You could tell that Bernie Wrights had just added the scar. Bernie Wrights had just added the horrific. So he's now preaching. He's like, they tried to burn me up. Look at my face. Behold what they did to me. And he's become like a charismatic preacher. He goes, I will be the Minutemen, and you will be my revolutionary army. We will overthrow our oppressors. You will be the Minutemen. So he puts on the mask, and he's telling them that, and they're like, yeah, yeah. He goes, you will all wear the same costume as me. So much for individuality. And, sexy chick over here is talking to Morlock, and he takes off the mask. He's like, you're the Midnight Man. Yeah. So he's showing them who he is. He's like, I'm the Midnight Man. Will you join my Minute Men? Again, there's no Midnight Men. There's only the Midnight Man. And he's showing them all the stuff that they have at their disposal. The Atlas Fantasy Shop. And this guy goes to the councilmen. We investigated. We found like an old subway, an old forgotten about subway station, and we think that's where they may have escaped. And he's like, nobody could escape. Go get them. So now they're talking, and here comes the thought police. And now what are they gonna do? They're gonna fight. So he's already transforming into the wood beast. And here we got some ads. And look at the Midnight Man's like, I can't deal with this right now. I got too much going on, and he's coming to kill him. Remember, when he turns into the wood beast, he has no control. It doesn't matter. He killed the little blind girl. So what does he do? He just shoots him. Boom. And he's like, that'll take care of that. And he's dead. And he's like, now I must go on and deal with this. So is that how they hand the comic off? We don't know. So it's like the end of Morlock and the Midnight Man. Don't bet your last 2 bits on it. Spend on the next issue to find out. So there you go. And that's the end. That's the end of the comic. Now, does that mean like Warlock 2000 was failing and they're just going to hand it off to the Midnight Men? I don't know. Only God knows. Now, I saw somebody ask, I'm sorry I didn't see the name. Is this some sort of reference to V for Vendetta? No, because this came out decades before V for Vendetta. V for Vendetta came out around 87, 89. So if anything, V for Vendetta was inspired by this. I wouldn't have made that connection if you didn't point it out. I would be very surprised if Alan Moore didn't read this. Alan Moore, the creator of V for Vendetta, because Alan Moore has been on record saying that he loves Bernie Wrightson and he loves Steve Ditko. And he loved American comics. So I would be very, very surprised to find out that Alan Moore didn't read this, or at least didn't know about it, or could be one of those strange coincidences. But there you go. this is all. Oh yeah, but is it oh yeah, absolutely it's similar. V, he was all burnt up to the point where nobody could recognize who he was, and he becomes a freedom fighter. This guy's all burnt up. Nobody knows who. We don't know his name, and he becomes a freedom fighter. Well, but why? We need to know. Like, how did he survive? What's going on? Like, was he experimenting on himself? Like, were they coming after him because of the books, or do they? Is that just what they told the thought police? Because go after him. He has books, but does the government really know that that he was a freedom fighter and that he had like some sort of serum? Because they remember the thought police only raided scientists, as far as we know. Like, this is what I would have liked to explore. Like, if I got high, forgive me, I'm going to take a sip of coffee. If I had taken over these comics, I would have been like, okay, there's some sort of interconnective tissue between the three raids. It's all policemen. The first two were plants. The second one was books. So let's make it together. Well, like, it could be something as simple as, let's brainstorm. Were they experimenting on plants to make books that couldn't be burnt? Or were they working on plans for like superhumans to fight the rebellion? To fight the oppressive government. I don't know, but that's what I would tie up. I love speculating, and I love like filling in the gaps. That's just my nature. So there you go. This was Morlock 2001 and the Midnight Men, and now you see there was no Midnight Men. There was the Minute Men, and the Midnight Man. Oh, geez, I don't know. So there you go. That's an hour. I started to wake up. I hope it was more entertaining at the beginning. Man, I was fumbling out of the gate. Couldn't wake up. But I at 12 o'clock. I got to go meet. I have a game group over at a game store. I'm gonna play my deluxe version of Flamecraft. It's such a cute looking game. So I'll BS for a couple of minutes. Anybody want to ask anything? Anybody want to say anything? Any comments? Any observations? I'm just gonna take another sip of coffee. Give people time to say something if you want. Otherwise, I'll shut this down. Okay, so I guess that's it. Thank you guys for coming. As always, it was fun. I appreciate the comments. Um, tell your friends. Let's get more people for Sunday Comics next week. Wednesday night, Pete's gonna come back, and he prepared. He wanted to talk about Frank Miller's Daredevil. And me and my ADHD nonsense, at the last minute, I just changed the topic because I had an idea. That's just the way I am. So I feel bad. He actually took notes. So Wednesday he will come on again at 7 o'clock. And bye Jeff, bye Sci Freak, and Pete will talk about. I'll give him the floor, and I'll be the passive observer. All right. So this is Sunday's video. Monday I already recorded Monday, and I had a couple of requests that again, my ADH brain. I want to do this first. I want to do this first. So and then I went through all the comments that YouTube was updated, and now there's like a little bit more features. Like I could look for comments that I didn't respond to, and comments that are new. And now they have a new feature, is comments that I responded to that have other responses. So I found like year-old comments that I never responded to, and some of them had requests. So there you go. Thanks a lot. Now I'm babbling. All right. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good weekend. What's left of it. I'll go back to regular videos. Wednesday I'll have a regular video, and then at 7 o'clock I'm going to go live again with Pete. All right. And then the following Wednesday I might go live with somebody else. And if anybody else is interested in coming live with me, send me an email at johnslongbox@yahoo.com. John's with an S, no apostrophe. johnslongbox@yahoo.com. Tell me why you want to go live. What do you want to talk about? And then, you know what? Maybe we'll talk on the phone for a couple, just to hash out what we want to talk about, because whatever. You got to be. I want to be the worst speaker on the live chat. All right, and then so if you're interested in that, maybe like I'll do like Wednesdays will be my thing to have a guest. That'll be fun to talk about other comic books. All right. So if you're interested in that, reach out to me. I'm not going to reach out to anybody because who am I to reach out? But if you're interested, reach out to me. All right. So I'll see you Have a good weekend, rest of your weekend, and it's time to go get some breakfast before game night. All right? Bye-bye.